Hello and welcome, namaskar. You're watching our special coverage. It is now being called the war game to beat all war games, the Mahabattle of Maharashtra. The polling is over. Rahul, me, Preeti are going to look at what we call war games and plot various scenarios and tell you what's most likely to happen when the counting begins on the 23rd. It's going to be fascinating because you're going to get all kinds of scenarios and probabilities that will give you a real sense of what's going to happen come counting day on Saturday.
This has been one of the most fiercely contested elections in Maharashtra. Also a tight battle in Jharkhand. So we'll run some scenario analysis and give you a sense of what is likely to happen. Rather than put out just the exit poll numbers and bank entirely on them, we'll be showing you what the poll numbers are saying, but also trying to give you a sense of how the counting day results may actually end up. So all that and more coming up over the next 3 hours right here on India Today. Let's introduce you to our guests. I want to introduce Amitabh Tiwari joins us, Preeti Chaudhary is with us, we've got Sheila Bhatt with us, leaders from different political parties will be joining us. So what we'll do is take scenario number 1. And remember, in Maharashtra, of the polls that we've seen so far, most seem to be suggesting that the Mahayuti is likely to win and cross the 145 number. So we'll spend a moment trying to understand why this is likely to happen, and if the Mahayuti does cross that magical figure, what are the factors that could probably lead it to crossing the 145 mark. So this is battlefield Maharashtra. As you can see, the Maratha warriors are daggers drawn. Eknath Shinde on the one side leading the Mahayuti versus Uddhav Thackeray and the Vikas Aghadi. So in scenario 1, we're modeling the prospect of the Mahayuti crossing the 145 figure, a clear, decisive victory for the NDA. And if this happens, you know, Eknath Shinde came up with the Larki Behan scheme modeled on the Ladli Behan Yojana of Shivraj Singh Chauhan in Madhya Pradesh. In all the data that's come out so far, more than 40% of the voters have said that this is the one scheme that's registered most strongly with them. So that would be one of the big reasons if this goes through. Also, the NDA's performance in urban Maharashtra, also a state urbanizing more rapidly than other parts of the country, would be another big reason for the Mahayuti doing well and getting more than 140. The BJP managing to contain damage in Marathwada in Vidhan, being able to deal with agrarian distress, being able to deal with the issue of Maratha agitation would also be involved if the Mahayuti crosses the 140 figure. Then the fact that you've got these two other parties, the Shinde Sena and the Ajit Pawar NCP, both have to come to the party, both have to do well, not just the BJP, if the alliance is to cross the 145 figure. And then remember, in the Lok Sabha elections, what we didn't see was good alliance chemistry, the inability to transfer votes from the NCP to the BJP because of the inorganic chemistry between voters, leaders and cadre. So if that changes in the Lok Sabha election, that would be important as well. So I'll show you two scenarios in terms of seat share projections. If this scenario actually comes out to be true and the Mahayuti gets 145 plus. So we worked with Amitabh Tiwari on these simulations. I'll show you scenario number 1. And remember, the base file over here is the Lok Sabha data because that's the only time that these parties have fought as an alliance. Remember, there were 4 parties earlier. Now you've got 2 additional parties, complicating any number crunching that happens for Maharashtra. So if the Vikas Aghadi and the Mahayuti were to get 2.5% votes each, then, so the Mahayuti gets 2.5% more, the Vikas Aghadi loses 2.5 from the Lok Sabha tally. If you look at just a simple conversion of Lok Sabha trends into assembly, in the Lok Sabha you had the Vikas Aghadi at 153 out of 288 and the Mahayuti at 126 out of 288. If from that base file, the Vikas Aghadi loses 2.5% and the Mahayuti gains 2.5, then you've got the Mahayuti at 158 seats and the MVA slips to 21. If there is an even bigger swing in favor of the Mahayuti, as is being predicted by some of the polling agencies, if there's a 5% gain in favor of the Mahayuti, then the tally for the Mahayuti becomes even bigger. The Mahayuti tally then could go up to 193 and the Vikas Aghadi could crash to 86. So Amitabh Tiwari, just try and explain these numbers. A 5% swing is massive. a 2.5% swing in favor of the Mahayuti also enough to see the Mahayuti home?
Yeah, because in the Lok Sabha election, while at the Lok Sabha level, the result was 30-17, if you look at the assembly leads, it was 153 and 126, the halfway mark being 145. So it was fairly close, 153 with Vikas Aghadi and 126 with Mahayuti. Now, if there is a 2.5% swing in favor of the Mahayuti from Vikas Aghadi, that is, if they are gaining at the expense of Vikas Aghadi, and you have explained the reasons could be Ladli Bahin Yojana, you could be better coordination amongst the allies, etc., etc., then we have a scenario wherein the Mahayuti could cross the simple majority mark and win around 158 seats, and the Vikas Aghadi at 120.
Rajdeep, you traveled a lot through Maharashtra. Did you see a perceptible vote share swing in favor of the Mahayuti anecdotally in your travels?
You know, I am terrified today. Having had 2024, the nightmare of Lok Sabha, then again what happened in Haryana. But look, I think if you look at the pure arithmetic, I can see where Amitabh is coming from. You had a Lok Sabha election, Rahul, where both the parties roughly in percentage terms were around the same percentage, marginal edge to the MVA there. The moment you get a swing in favor of the Mahayuti, naturally your numbers change dramatically. My only little small caveat, 2 or 3 caveats actually. Number one, I've been going through these numbers. There are 68 multipolar contests in Maharashtra. And when I say multipolar, I mean genuinely multipolar, where you have 3 to 4 candidates in the race. One of them could be independent, one of them is a rebel, one of them could be a smaller party. Now in those parties, can any pollster, even a swing? Remember, the swing could be concentrated on certain areas. Yeah. My belief, for example, is that much of the swing could be in urban areas. What happens in the rural pockets? So I think a uniform swing across a large state like Maharashtra is difficult to contemplate. Having said that, clearly as most of the polls are showing, Mahayuti has been able to course correct compared to Lok Sabha. 3 things happened. Eknath Shinde went in for an image correction, brought in these welfare schemes, put in the money out there, particularly directed at women, and the delivery was effective. So he managed to refurbish his image. I didn't hear anyone tell me, Pannas khoke, ekdam okay, in the manner that they said before the Lok Sabha. That's number one. The BJP got the RSS firmly on its side, worked hard in Vidarbha, pushed for sub-classification of Dalits, worked among non-Mahar Dalits, realizing we can't afford a Dalit Muslim consolidation, also attacked the Vidhan narrative as a fake narrative. So the BJP also to some extent has got its act together. And Ajit Pawar, who perhaps in the Lok Sabha was floundering, has about 20 candidates who can win on their own, whichever party. So I think there are factors that you can explain why the Mahayuti could do very well in a Vidhan Sabha compared to a Lok Sabha, with the one worry that I have for them, which is soya bean. If there is one, onion was the big crop that affected the Mahayuti in the Lok Sabha. Soya bean could do to them in the Vidhan Sabha. There are 68 constituencies, Rahul, in Maharashtra where soya bean is a factor. And 2 days ago, Hindutva hotheads went and attacked Zarange Patil publicly. Big mistake. Because suddenly you're seeing, and I'm looking at some of the voter trends in Marathwada, they are coming out. And the reason they're coming out, I think, is Zarange Patil is the one leader I saw who both in Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha has retained his hold over his following.
But he also announced he's putting up candidates, or he'll support candidates, then change his mind. Lost some credibility as a result.
Doesn't matter.
He did lose some credibility.
No, he didn't. You see, I thought he had lost credibility. It's very interesting. He's a phenomenon. Any young Maratha, you mean, sir, to maza manus hai. To konacha manus nahi hai, to amsa manus hai. You see, actually it worked in his advantage. They thought he was being bought over by politicians. By withdrawing and saying, I'm going to do my own thing, they felt he's their man.
Preeti,
so don't underestimate the Zarange Patil factor.
You traveled through Maharashtra. Give everyone a sense of what you picked up.
You know, with Rajdeep, what he's saying, when you're talking about the Zarange factor, I interviewed him, just 3 days earlier before I came in, Rahul. He is hoping this will fall exactly the way 2024 Lok Sabha election holds. What is he saying? He's saying जो 24 में किया उससे बुरा करना. He is not saying कि बीजेपी को वोट करो या कांग्रेस को वोट करो. What's also very interesting, Rajdeep and Rahul, is that this time around there are both. There are Maratha candidates which have been given by the BJP in the same belt. So he's not attacking Eknath Shinde, but he's attacking Devendra Fadnavis. So it will be interesting, and if this scenario plays out, then that Maratha vote has gone. Number one. Number two, where Rajdeep speaks of the soya bean factor. It is the political crop this season. If there is a political crop, it's soya bean, especially in the Vidhan Marathwada belt. The minute you go into the mandis, you can hear it. 4,800 rupees was the MSP, which was been fixed by the government to pick up the crop. That hasn't quite happened. Till even 3 days before polling, the crop wasn't picked up on MSP.
It was announced in September, and the
Exactly.
farmers were
So
feeling
there is a fair
that they
amount
weren't
of anger.
benefiting from the MSP that had been announced. Yashwant Deshmukh of Sea Voter joins us. In a short while from now, we'll show you what their poll is saying. But at a broad stroke level, Yashwant, in Maharashtra, your teams have been crisscrossing the state. You want to give our viewers a sense of what is it that you've picked up about this poll in this battlefield of Maharashtra, Yashwant? Welcome.
Well, Maharashtra, I would still like to wait for more data to come. I mean, one thing is sure that Vidarbha and Marathwada are the two deciding regions, and these are the areas, Rahul, where in Lok Sabha election it was Congress versus the BJP, and the Congress actually scored big time. So we would still like to look into that set of data and come up with our analysis. But what it looks like so far is that among the Senas, largely speaking, Shinde has scored over Uddhav Thackeray in their bastions, if we may say so. And Pawar Senior has absolutely steamrolled, it seems like, over Ajit Pawar, largely speaking. It's narrowing down to the core areas of Vidarbha and Marathwada. And if the BJP can do enough damage control, what it went through in the Lok Sabha elections, which I know there would be a lot of parallels that would be drawn after Haryana elections, and Haryana was a complete harakiri by the Congress. Atma Hati Daste ki tarah se jaise unhone kaam kiya. But unlike Haryana, there is not much of infighting as far as the Congress in Maharashtra is concerned. So I am still looking at that angle. However, one thing I want to say again, and we have always for the last 25 years in our association, Rahul, maintained that exit poll or any survey exercise starts and ends with the vote share projection. If you are not showing vote share and giving only seat share, I will not like to comment on that data. Anything has to start with
so
the
broadly,
vote share
I agree with you. And broadly, from what
okay.
you're saying, you're seeming to suggest that the Sharad Pawar faction of the NCP has done better than the Ajit Pawar faction of the NCP. And
Right.
you're suggesting that the Shinde Sena has done better than the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray Sena. And that in the BJP versus Congress direct fights, and remember there's 69 direct fights between the BJP and the Congress, you're saying you're waiting for more data to come in before you can predict which way those fights have gone.
Exactly my point. Even though the initial trends show that the contest has closed in Vidarbha for sure, that it hasn't closed in so much in Marathwada. But in Vidarbha, definitely the contest is
Closed
much
in which
closer
direction?
than
Your base shows the
Maha.
Mahayuti in front or the Vikas Aghadi in front? Close depends
So
on who's
far-
in front. Fir piche
so
se
far
aayega na.
Vikas Aghadi in front in Vidarbha, but it is closer than what was in Lok Sabha.
But Yashwant Deshmukh, will the Aghadi hold on to what it had in 2024 in Vidhar? Because if it does so and does well, what you're saying in Western Maharashtra, that group puts the Aghadi ahead.
Well, definitely it's a contest to watch out for. Number one, that in the vote share, it is almost coming like a statistical tie at the state level at this point of time. But let me make it very clear, at the regional level, it is not at all tie. At every region is behaving like a separate state, and whichever party or the alliance is leading in that particular region is leading with a comfortable margin. You know,
Rajdeep, spend a moment explaining to our viewers the
that
complexity
pool-
of Maharashtra, why this seems to have more been like a municipal or a panchayat election rather than a pan-state election with one narrative going across the
That's right. And I think your magic wall will show that also, because there are 6 regions effectively. I look at this as 6 state elections. There's Vidarbha, there's Marathwada, there's North Maharashtra, there's Western Maharashtra, there's Konkan, and there is Mumbai. Don't even identify them as one. Mumbai is very different from what happens in the Konkan. Broadly speaking, in the Lok Sabha, if you looked at it, the MVA did very well in Vidarbha, did very well in Marathwada, did reasonably well in Western Maharashtra. The Shiv Sena, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray did quite well in Mumbai. Konkan was the one area where the Shinde Sena made the gains. And you saw in North Maharashtra, because of the onion factor, the BJP being pulled back. Broadly, if I were to look at the primary contest, these 75 seats, direct fights between the Congress and BJP are mainly in Vidarbha and Marathwada. Agrarian, largely in the agrarian belt. We've seen the BJP do very well in Maharashtra in recent times in urban pockets. The more urban you go in Pune, in Mumbai, the BJP has tended to do better than it does in rural Maharashtra. Marathwada is a complicated region over the years because of the various OBC versus Maratha struggles, but I would say that there you've got all the players in the fight. If you're in Aurangabad, you'll have the Shiv Sena, UBT versus Shiv Sena, Shinde group. If you go into rural areas, you'll have BJP pockets, you'll have Sharad Pawar pockets, and you'll have pockets of the Congress. Then come to Western Maharashtra. This is where Ajit Pawar and Sharad Pawar are in direct contest in about 38 seats. So the Sharad Pawar versus Ajit Pawar direct contest 38. 50 seats direct contest is mainly between Shinde Sena, 49 actually, between Shinde Sena and the UBT Sena, mainly in the Konkan, some in North Maharashtra, few in Marathwada, and a large number also, of course, in and around Mumbai. I think those 88, 89 will decide. If anyone has to get a majority, someone has to pummel the other into submission. One party has to go down really badly. Either Ajit Pawar goes down badly, Uddhav Thackeray goes down badly, then you have a possibility of a majority. My sense is the Congress versus BJP, Rahul, is the tight fight. Because there you've got the BJP putting a lot of effort, but there the Congress has local leaders, local OBC leaders. Nana Patole, Sunil Kedar, all OBCs, all Kunbis. And in the Vidarbha region, we saw last time Dalit Muslim Kunbi consolidation. What do you call DMK?
Adivasi as well.
Add Adivasi and ADMK. Today, among the highest voter turnout was in Gadchiroli, which is, Adivasi country. I think if there is one region, Rahul, where I think the MVA has its best chance, it's Marathwada. Whatever could go wrong for the Mahayuti has gone wrong there. If there's one region where I think the Mahayuti is likely to make impressive gains this time, it's North Maharashtra, because the onion factor no longer exists. The BJP has strong bases there. But even there, you have Nandurbar with a large Adivasi population.
Adivasi factor
So
is
nothing
there.
in Maharashtra, is uniform.
Sure.
It's a seat by seat. Sheila Bhatt put it very well the other day on your show, Panchayat election. It was almost seat by seat when you went across Maharashtra, because rebels, independents all play a major role. If Sharad Pawar defeats Ajit Pawar badly, as some polls suggest, then the Mahayuti has a tough time getting to the halfway mark. If Ajit Pawar can hold his own, Shinde can defeat Uddhav Thackeray, and BJP can make those recoveries, particularly in Vidarbha, and hold on to its urban strongholds. I think Mahayuti is in
Sheila
pole
Ben, what are
position.
you picking up?
So, Rahul, this election was very exciting for everybody. That goes without saying. France, Germany, England, all in the fray, and all three different areas and different issues. But I would say first thing first that we are sitting in Delhi, and at least I am a Delhi-based journalist, so I want to say that I don't know why it's a very strange thing that Congress led by Rahul Gandhi has one kind of a political strategy where Rahul himself does not participate in a state election in a big way, which we saw this time in Maharashtra, and I'm sure all of you will agree with that, which is a very big factor that given a choice, Narendra Modi would like to fight even participate in a panchayat election. But here is a leader who is at last made it, and after Bharat Jodo Yatra, and he is a leader of opposition. But that is a very big issue for me, that why MVA did not put its best foot forward together, all three factors. It's a very surprising thing for me, I think.
Okay.
And second very important thing, because in election, what is more important, कि आपके voter booth पे गए कि नहीं? I think I see Mahayuti making best of the efforts and rather ferocious efforts. I think why Yogi went to Maharashtra, why एक है तो safe है, and why
बटेंगे तो कटेंगे,
all that. just to provoke and
Charge up their
excite,
voters.
charge up their own constituency.
But you
So
see,
I think-
that
but I think
Sheila,
it's-
could that be a double-edged sword? Because,
Yeah.
Lok Satta had a very interesting, the Marathi newspaper front page story yesterday. Maximum demand in Maharashtra was for Nitin Gadkari. Maximum demand by candidates. And they had candidates on record saying that we want Gadkari here. There is a belief that a Yogi Adityanath may work, and this is why Maharashtra is complex, may work in an Aurangabad. Large Muslim population there, Yogi comes there, charges up the audience. But the backlash of that is then felt in other pockets. For example, in Marathwada, there is a
Nanded.
consolidation that takes place. So, one size doesn't fit all in Maharashtra. It's very interesting. The Prime Minister in the middle of an election has gone for G20. He's chosen G20. He didn't campaign in the last
chosen
phase.
He didn't have an option.
No,
He has to
didn't.
go for G20.
Yeah, he
Chosen
didn't.
means what?
No, in the sense that
It's his obligation
in the
to go, he
sense
has
that
to
if
go.
you see the last 3-4 days of a campaign, the BJP then brought in Nitin Gadkari and others as well. So I think the BJP has run a more cohesive campaign, not just relied on Mr. Modi this time. They've relied also a lot on their state leaders to pull their weight. It's been and I think for the Congress also, they've realized that, you can't, Rahul Gandhi waving Vidhan didn't work for me in any
It's
part.
not a local
asked
state
people,
issue.
I asked people out there, nobody was influenced by Samvidhan, but the moment you went into soya bean, the moment you went into the price of a cooking oil box, you see the one thing, Larki Bahin could be a winner. If these big numbers are there, that means Larki Bahin has worked. But at Diwali time itself, Rahul, cooking oil price went up.
7 rupees.
So every woman you spoke to would have a but. I want Larki Bahin, great, but
But
cooking oil
Rajdeep,
price.
with
So
what you
it's
say,
interesting.
but with what you say that at least what I feel with this election, Marathwada, Vidarbha, it's an election of 3 C's, Rajdeep, because these are the possibly the swing regions this election. Number one, I think crop is number one with what you said, soya bean, cotton. Number one on everyone's mind. Number two, I think caste, where you talk about Marathwada, this is where it was a double-edged sword, Rahul, where you spoke of cutenge to batenge, because I'll give you an example, and I'll give you an anecdotal example. You have an Ashok Chavan whose daughter is fighting from Nanded. You go there, Ashok Chavan is also appealing to the Muslim vote, which he's got till now. But now, because there's 15% Muslim vote in the Marathwada region, he cannot go out and appeal, to what Yogi Adityanath is saying. Similarly, when you come down to Western Maharashtra, you have an Ajit Pawar who has to appeal to the Muslim vote. Therefore, they are publicly, on public platforms, decrying what Yogi Adityanath has said.
I want to go to Zafar Islam. Zafar bhai, what are the BJP's numbers saying? How confident are you that this battle is sunk? We saw some wildly varying polling data from different agencies, pollsters, pundits, strategists. What are your BJP internal numbers at the moment?
Well, we are going to win this election for sure. I remember, and you people have also tweeted it when on 5th of October, on the exit poll, I had said the same thing, that we are going to win the Haryana election. And I won't say that you ridiculed, but you were not willing to accept it. But today, then you were proven wrong on the 8th of October. Here again, whatever speculations and the permutation combination you guys are discussing, actually you will see that Bharatiya Janata Party and its alliance put together, Mahayuti will get 180 plus. It go beyond 200 comfortably as well. Because we have done work on the ground. We knew what exactly has gone wrong in 2024 election. We have addressed those concerns. We have addressed the gaps. And we have worked as a team, cohesive team, Mahayuti as a team. We have fought election in all the 288 seats, not only the seats allocated to us. And they also, likewise, they have also fought all the elections. So we have put in every effort to transfer each other's vote to the candidate. And we are very confident that we will win beyond 180 and it can go comfortably to 100. We will be not surprised if we get 200.
Okay,
plus.
so you're hoping for a double
Haryana,
century at the cricket pitch of the election Premier League. I want to go to scenario 2 now, which is, where we're examining the prospects of the opposite, which is the Maha Vikas Aghadi, continuing the pattern of the Lok Sabha election. And if that were to happen, let's go back to the battle between the Maratha warriors. If in scenario 2, you've got the Maha Vikas Aghadi, the India Alliance, crossing 145. And if this happens, it essentially means that what we saw in June 2024 gets carried over to November this year. And Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar are able to carry some of the sympathy vote. If this happens, this would be a rejection of the politics of Jod Tod. This idea that you can break the Shiv Sena, you can break the NCP and make it work in your favor. That idea would then get rejected by the voters of Maharashtra. It also means that the alliance chemistry that we saw between MVA partners proves to be better than the alliance chemistry between the Mahayuti partners. And then the impact of the Larki Behan scheme, which has been spoken of so much in this campaign, gets neutralized by inflation, by soya bean prices, and the fact that there is a general sense of anti-incumbency. And that Maratha reservation agitation actually ends up hurting the Mahayuti. There's been an agitation, the Mahayuti is trying to counter that, but if this happens, it means the Maratha votes consolidated in favor of the MVA, and soya bean prices really hurt the NDA's prospects in Marathwada and in Vidarbha. Let's now try and turn this scenario into a simulation and show you the numbers. So in this scenario, if there is a clear win for the India alliance, what could the numbers look like? So let me show you the Game of Thrones for Maharashtra, and then we'll take you through the numbers for it. So I'll show you two scenarios. In the first scenario, the Mahayuti comes down by 2.5%, the Mahayuti comes down by 2.5%, and the Vikas Aghadi goes up by 2.5%. So Mahayuti comes down by 2.5%, the Vikas Aghadi goes up by, if that were to happen, then you have a scenario where the Mahayuti comes down to 106 from 126 in the Lok Sabha elections. They come down to 106. The Vikas Aghadi from 153 goes up 20 seats to 173. This is the first scenario we're taking, where the UT is down 1.5%, the Vikas Aghadi is up 1.5%. Just that kind of a vote share, just 1.5% can make this big a change to the end results. Let's take the second scenario where the UT comes down, the NDA comes down by 2.5%, the Vikas Aghadi goes up by 2.5%. If this were to happen, then the MVA or the India alliance could end up at 186 and the Mahayuti could come down to 93. This is a bad case scenario, but it could get worse. If there is a 5% swing over the Lok Sabha trends, then the Vikas Aghadi could go up by as much as 207 and the Mahayuti could come down to as much as 72. So what I'll try and do just for a moment is see if I can fire this up and do some simulations within the studio. We'll start with Rajdeep. So basically you've got the Mahayuti on this side, and if you're watching at this time, you can do this at home as well. So you've got the BJP contesting 149, the Shinde Sena contesting 81, the NCP 59. Rajdeep, broadly, if you were to be asked, what's your sense of where the BJP could end up and what the strike rate could be? And I'll put it down once you give me a number.
No, I'm not going to get into this game, Rahul. All I will say is this. Either the Mahayuti wins big, right? As, with Amitabh's swing of 5%, that's possible. Can't be ruled out if Larki Behan has had
5% swing over the Lok Sabha in favor of the Vikas Aghadi.
No, in favor of the... my two scenarios for this election basically are a huge swing in favor of the Mahayuti riding on the back of Larki Behan compared to Lok Sabha, and thereby they get a big majority, because then you could get the upper end 175, 180. Or we have a seat-by-seat contest of the kind that I saw, and because Marathwada and Vidarbha are where the Congress and the Vikas Aghadi are very much in the race, then you have a tight contest that could go either way, where I refuse to even throw a number.
Okay, so let me put somebody else on the spot then. Milind Deora joins us, Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament of the Shinde Sena, also a contestant from Worli up against Aditya Thackeray. So Milind, welcome. You know, we've got this election war game going on. We're looking at different scenarios. So why don't you start by giving our viewers, and I'll start noting what you say, for the Mahayuti, the BJP, Shinde Sena, NCP, how many seats do you think each are picking?
Rahul, I leave these war games to Rajdeep and you. You guys are the experts at doing this. I, for one, with greatest respect to both of you, I've never been and I think my track record as a politician has been very consistent on this front. I have always taken exit polls with a pinch of salt, with a grain of salt rather. And I believe, based on what I think, based on talking to people from all sides, that the Mahayuti will get a majority, a clear majority. There's a fundamental difference between the mood in Maharashtra, between the Lok Sabha election and the Vidhan Sabha election. You can attribute it to various things. And I think that the campaign that the Mahayuti ran was a far more localized campaign, far more focused campaign on issues that matter to the people. In a Lok Sabha election, it's natural that you're expecting every state to go with the national mood by and large. Although Maharashtra, like some southern states, had a different mood. In the Vidhan Sabha election, the alliance partners got together, were very cognizant of that, and ran a campaign that was localized, that was had regional aspirations, gave attention to regional issues in Marathwada versus regional issues in Mumbai versus regional issues in Vidarbha. So I'm confident the alliance will get a majority, a clear majority. The numbers
Winning Worli. Are you going to emerge the giant slayer or will you in the end be the Bali ka Bakra? Are you winning or not? What's your confidence level? वो तो बताओ, आपका poll क्या कह रहा है?
Look, firstly, let me say this on a very serious note, that my relationship with Worli is not a relationship, and I said this to you on your show, that it's not a relationship where you live in one constituency and you travel by train or by plane and fight elections from another constituency. This is my, as I said, my Janma Bhumi, my Karma Bhumi. This is where I live, reside, where I fight elections from. What happens here affects me, the good and bad affects me directly. And in that sense, the relationship with Worli, with South Mumbai transcends politics, transcends power, transcends post. That said, I did sense a tremendous amount of anti-incumbency against Aditya. It took me by surprise. But then again, the Lok Sabha elections, he won by almost 70,000 votes 5 years ago in an assembly. In the Lok Sabha election, his candidate won by barely 6,500 votes from Worli, which was 90% of that margin was shaved off. So there's tremendous anti-incumbency. But let's see what happens. I'm not somebody who likes to be overconfident and boast. I think we put a good campaign together. We certainly put them on the spot. We highlighted positive issues. And ultimately for me, what matters is, I've fought many elections. I've seen many elections from home. Running a positive, clean, good, constructive campaign is very, very important. Especially
why I was asking you the question of what your numbers look like, because the BJP contested about 150 odd seats. If they get, say, 100 plus, they may want to have their own man as chief minister. There's already been some BJP leaders saying, oh, within our cadre, within our party, people want Devendra Fadnavis. So if the BJP emerges as decisively the number one party, are you concerned that your leader, currently Eknath Shinde, may no longer be chief minister?
No, I'm not concerned about these things, and my simple advice to you guys in the studio is just wait 3 days. Everything will be clear in 3 days. Nothing's going to change if you debate this endlessly for 3 days. And I know it's difficult for your profession.
He's basically telling us, go home,
be patient,
don't do this.
Everything will be clear in 3 days.
I think as I said,
just
and
imagine
Milind
this,
Deora may admit it or not.
When a candidate fights the election, imagine what the candidate is thinking. Imagine what a candidate is thinking, that what will happen, what's going on in that booth, in that EVM machine. Is it in my favor? Is it some? You have to relax. You have to take a chill pill, let it, relax, and in 3 days everything will become clear. So there's no point speculating this endlessly.
Behaving very zen-like. Yeah, but you'll basically put us out of business and send us for sannyas. We're too young for sannyas, not going for any sannyas just yet.
I think the fact is that those 49
that's the
seats.
problem. Now it's become
repeat,
an addiction.
Milind Deora is one of those 49 seats, which is going to see a primary battle between the two senas. There are battles within a battle, Rahul.
Is he looking nervous, Rajdeep?
No, he's not. I mean, look, Milind Deora is, in a way, he's taken a tough challenge. It's not easy to take on Aditya Thackeray in Worli. But look, the good news for him is, even if he loses, his Rajya Sabha MPship is there.
But it's a battle of once you're in. Look at the family he comes from. His father, he himself has nurtured South Bombay. So it's a matter of prestige.
Excuse me, both of you.
Milind Deora exemplifies just how much Maharashtra politics has changed. If you had asked me 10 years ago that Milind Deora would be taking on Aditya Thackeray in Worli, I would have laughed you off.
Why would you have laughed us off?
As Shiv Sena, because who would have thought that the politics of Maharashtra would change so dramatically? The fact is, the politics of Maharashtra is broken. Milind Deora may like it, not like it.
No, but he feels much happier and comfortable now than he did in his past party.
look, Milind Deora, Milind Deora can say that he's more comfortable in the Shiv Sena. The fact was, Milind Deora was a hardcore congressman till 5 years ago. Now he has to explain the switch. My limited point, Rahul, is there are these 49 seats between the two Senas.
He's objecting to us speaking about him in third person when he's listening. Yes, Milind bhai, go for it.
Both of you, I must say something that I'm here. You're talking about me non-stop as if I've left the room already. I'm right here. Please, my request to you, stop speculating endlessly. Wait, be patient. You're talking about me in third person when I'm right here. Ask me the question directly, I'll answer. I'm not nervous.
No, my direct question then to you. My direct question. 49 seats, Sena versus Sena.
We ran a good campaign.
Sir, just a minute. Forget that. Forget the, forget giving me the usual, thing. We ran a good campaign. I want to ask you straight. 49 seats, Sena versus Sena. The vote has got completely split. Who is the Marathi Manus with? Is it with Aditya Thackeray, Milind Deora? Is it with Sada Sarvankar or an Amit Thackeray? These are the contests that people are looking at because they will decide the Marathi Manus. Why would the Marathi Manus go with Milind Deora and not with Aditya Thackeray?
Okay, let him speak. Milind.
Okay, done?
Yep.
Yeah. So firstly, in the Lok Sabha election, the strike rate of my party was higher than it was of UBT, point number one. Point number two, I can assure you that the strike rate, when you're asking me where is the Marathi Manus and who is the Marathi Manus with, you will get that answer on the 23rd. The Marathi Manus, I believe, especially in cities like Mumbai, has shifted with us for various reasons which you can debate on the 23rd.
Okay, so, you're saying don't stress about numbers, don't speculate. So as a candidate who's now waiting to see what happens in the end, how do you intend to pass the next 3 days, Milind Deora? What's your jam? What do you intend to do?
Without sounding offensive and definitely not to watch the two of you speculating this to death for the next 3 days. These are things, elections, you have to trust the process. I mean, I don't want to sound Zen-like and philosophical here, but you have to trust the process. I think that I really believe that you can see trends and you could see that there was distress in the Lok Sabha election, that Maharashtra has had a different mood as compared to the national mood. You can tell that those boxes have been ticked in the last 6 months. Every single box has been ticked, from agrarian issues to urban issues, from schemes to infrastructure projects. There were so many infrastructure projects in Mumbai itself, which before the Lok Sabha elections were yet to be opened, yet to be commissioned, yet to be completed. Those have been opened, completed, commissioned, announced, open to the public. They're using them for the last 3 months, 4 months. All these things have had an impact. So I'm confident that people have seen progress on the ground. People have seen that this government does what it says. And those are the reasons why I'm confident that the Mahayuti will come back to power.
Okay, we wish you all the best. You fought a tough campaign. This would really be Milind Deora, the giant slayer, if he wins against Aditya Thackeray. He's saying, don't speculate, so we'll have you back on the 23rd. For taking out time today, Milind Deora, thank you very much. Amitabh Tiwari, you're now in the hot seat. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call back my simulation. And, you run, itna hua to waisa hua, aisa hua to waisa.
So what do you want us to do? You want us to
I
put
want you to
numbers
give
there?
us a sense. No, listen, here's what I wish to say. Before someone takes a screenshot and then, trolls anyone, here's the idea. The fact is that no one poll in the last few polls, whether it was Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, or the Lok Sabha elections, or even the US elections, has proven to be exact. So instead of just pinning the entire coverage on just one poll, the idea is to look at the numbers, look at the credible polls. We'll show you Yashwant's data in just a moment. And then also look at what else could happen, so it doesn't seem as if that's the only one poll which is the gospel. Okay, so Amitabh Tiwari, that said, the Mahayuti contested 149 seats, the Sena 81, 59. Give us a sense of what you think may happen and why. And I'll put down the numbers.
Oh, you want me to get trolled on?
No, troll nahi. Isme se trolling se kyun dar rahe?
Go for it.
Trolling
See,
se
I
kya
think
dar rahe?
logically, if you
Dekho,
see...
whatever happens, they'll find some reason to troll you. So why are we worried about trolling?
Okay,
Go for
so
it.
logically, if you see, here, out of 150 odd seats which BJP is contesting, if BJP gets a strike rate of lower than 60%, which means 90 seats, then Mahayuti story is done.
And
If they get less than... No, Rajdeep, you separately. Don't mix up the analysis.
No, just for our viewers, just to explain, while you have 149 seats, please do not forget there are 17 to 20 BJP candidates contesting either on a Shinde Sena ticket or NCP Ajit Pawar.
No,
Please
so
keep
you are
that in mind.
saying, you are saying the BJP is likely, has to be more than 90
Has to be
plus.
90 minimum for Mahayuti to win.
To get a majority, you're
To
saying.
get a majority, 90 seats. It
So
has
you're
to
saying
be 90.
that would be 90 for them.
90 for them. Then if we come to the weaker links, I mean comparatively weaker links, which are Shinde Sena and Ajit Pawar's NCP. Now, if you see Shinde Sena, as Rajdeep ji has said, 53 contests, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray versus Shinde, Eknath Shinde.
Yes.
Now here in Mumbai, I don't think things are going to change compared to Lok Sabha.
I
It's
agree with
largely going to remain the same.
I agree.
Now the question is that in Thane Konkan, Shiv Sena Shinde did fairly well compared to Shiv Sena Uddhav Balasaheb.
Okay, so I've got BJP plus, BJP at 90 plus, now Shinde Sena at what? Out of the 81 seats they're fighting.
Yeah, so Shinde Sena, again, minimum if they do not win 50% of their battles.
So 40.
40, they have to win 40. And they can win 40 because in Thane Konkan, they did exceedingly well
No,
compared
so
to
if the
UBP.
BJP gets 90 plus, the Sena gets 40 plus, then they're home, 130 odd.
No, 1
Correct.
minute. It's 144.
Around, around that. Now, if you see NCP, now NCP strike rate was just 25%, a 1 out of 4 in 2024 Lok Sabha election. This time, I don't see them coming below 20 in any case. So 20 to 25.
So ho gaya na 150.
So
Then they're
even
through.
if they have a 40% strike rate, they are likely there. So the key is BJP to get 90 out of 150 out of this. They have to get that. Otherwise, it becomes difficult because the other parties may not be able to win more than 2/3 of what the BJP is
No,
winning.
but I would add one thing, that even if BJP does not get 90, but if Congress gets less than BJP, whatever BJP gets, then technically speaking, it will be single largest party, so the everything changes.
Now, how does that change? No, 1 minute, 1 minute. They've gone as both pre-poll alliances. Let's be
Yes,
very
yes,
clear.
pre-poll
So,
alliances.
I mean, are you telling
No,
me the
but
governor does not invite the largest pre-poll
No,
alliance?
that's what I'm saying. If
She's
these
saying
two
if the
is
Congress
taken
is
care
less,
of,
yeah.
if the total of MBA is not higher than Mahayuti, but BJP Congress, amne samne, if BJP is little, even 1 seat higher than Congress, then the things change. And we have to remember that only 3 days are left.
Yeah, sure. So,
No,
so you see,
3 days are left to form the assembly.
So you see,
so
you-
there is a, unless you go
Yeah.
for a president rule,
that your point
Then-
is well taken. But you see, the fact is, for the Congress, let's do it on the other side. You know, it's
yeah.
interesting.
Okay, one second.
How does the other side reach
Yes,
halfway?
Yes.
Because if Rahul, if the BJP is 90 plus, that means the Congress cannot cross 60 under any circumstances.
But 60 is not bad for Congress.
Okay,
No, but-
wait, Rajdeep, 1 second. Now I'm ready for you. Congress fighting 101. What are you saying?
Their best case scenario, they have to be between 50 and 60. I mean, that they have to win
I
50%
would
of their
say
seats
60.
again.
I would
50
say
plus
60,
you're saying.
if they have to
Yeah,
win 60.
let's say they
60
let's
plus.
say closer to 60. They have to be between 55 and 60.
क्या लिखूं यहाँ पे?
55 and 60.
55 plus.
55 plus. ठीक है, 55 plus. Right?
Okay, my writing was always terrible, okay, even in school. So bear
They're
with me.
55 plus.
I don't think it's looking nice.
Sena-
Then you come to NCP.
Is it legible or not legible?
Yeah, come to NCP first.
Okay,
NCP, Sharad Pawar has picked the choicest seats.
Correct.
Where he's got the best chance. If you look at his strike rate in Lok Sabha, it was 80%. That's not going to happen in the Vidhan Sabha.
Sure.
But let's say if he can also get 60% strike rate, which puts him at around 50 seats, right? 45 to 50. Put him at 50. 55 plus 50 is 105.
Okay.
As everyone in Mumbai has said, Sena UBT has to get 40 seats for a Vikas Aghadi government to be formed. If they cannot get 40 seats, game is over. Because then it means that the Shinde Sena has bested them, which clearly gives a huge boost to the Mahayuti. So I think these are the two best scenarios. If this happens, they are what, 145? Yeah. If this happens, if Pradeep's, you've removed the numbers. They were 90 and they were 40.
40 and 25.
25.
Something like that, yeah.
130, that's 155.
Yeah.
So
Or
these are the
20,
two scenarios,
25.
best case scenarios, I think, unless there's a sweep, unless we've underestimated, only I can see Mahayuti sweeping because of Larki Bahin. But if Larki Bahin is not working, then you're in for a seat-by-seat contest.
And
That's how I see it. That's plain safe.
One thing here is very interesting is that the NCP SP versus NCP AP, the type of sweep which Sharad Pawar got, like 74% of the vote share and 26% to NCP AP, is unlikely to happen this time.
Okay.
That sort of lead NCP Sharad Pawar may not get.
So what we can do now is look at the third scenario. So we've looked at the prospect of a Mahayuti sweep. We've looked at the prospect of a Vikas Aghadi sweep. I now come to the third prospect, which is of a potential hung assembly. So let's come back to the battlefield of Maharashtra. In this scenario, neither side scores a majority, and I'll run you through why scenario 3 may actually come through. In this scenario, both sides punch really hard, but no one can land the knockout blow. And therefore, they come out bruised and battered, but not triumphant in the fullest sense. In such a scenario, there'd be likely 30 plus independents. Others in these smaller parties would play a pivotal role in determining who forms the next government in Maharashtra. In such a situation, smaller parties like the VBA, the MNS, the AIMIM manage to secure some crucial seats. The NDA does well in rural and semi-rural Maharashtra, whereas the Vikas Aghadi does much better in rural Maharashtra. So the Mahayuti does better in urban Maharashtra, semi-urban Maharashtra. The Vikas Aghadi does better in rural Maharashtra. And in this scenario, rebel candidates and independents prove to be a migraine for both parties. We did some analysis and I'll take you through that in just a moment. But lots of rebels and independents which could cause problems for both factions. But let me take you through what the numbers could look like in this scenario, where both sides end up below the majority mark. So I'll take the first scenario. This is where the Vikas Aghadi comes down 1.5% from its Lok Sabha vote percentage, and the Mahayuti goes up by 1.5% from its Lok Sabha vote percentage. In that scenario, the Vikas Aghadi is at 135, the Mahayuti at 144, very close to forming the government in this scenario. It could get even worse. I call that scenario Maha-mess. I'll show that to you in just a couple of minutes. But before that, you've got the Mahayuti at 144 and the Vikas Aghadi at 135. The moment, Rajdeep, the Mahayuti crosses, say, 135, they're kind of home. They'll find if the Vikas Aghadi, to my mind, has to win, it has to be clearly above the majority. If the Mahayuti is slightly below the majority, they'll still find the ways and means of going home.
Yes and no. Remember that there are a lot of smaller parties like AIMIM, SP, PWP. They could pick 7-8 seats between them. There are also about 8 or 10 NCP rebels who could well win. Sharad Pawar, I can tell you, has been in touch with some of them. You see, Maharashtra has this...
Pawar faction.
That's right. I think, Preeti, you're right. I mean, there is this possibility that is talked about in Maharashtra that there are some Ajit Pawar leaders who may well want to go with Sharad Pawar if they are in a position to dictate kaun banega Mukhyamantri. You see, there is the other battle. Kaun banega Mukhyamantri. What if Sharad Pawar wins 45, Ajit Pawar wins 15, and no government can be formed without either? Then you're in a position where they could demand chief ministership. All of that is speculation. But my own sense is, you're absolutely right. Mahayuti has more possibilities of reaching the halfway mark if it's hung. Vikas Aghadi will have to strain every leash that they are. They don't have the power of the center. Once you have the power of the center, it makes it that much easier in a hung assembly. But we saw what happened in 2019. Maharashtra mein kuch bhi ho sakta hai.
Okay, so I want to come to scenario number 4, which is the Maha-mess scenario. This is the scenario I don't know whether I'm dreading or loving, because if it happens, there'll be non-stop live coverage for days on end like there was after the chaotic government formation in 2019. But the flip side is that would really not be good for the state of Maharashtra, because any state deserves a clean, clear government which can get on with the job of governance, and there isn't this unnecessary jod-tod. So let me return on the Maha battlefield one last time. This is scenario number 4. I call this Maha-mess. And Maha-mess because you've got a scenario where neither hits the 130s, or just about close to 130 or shorter. And you've got independents in these smaller parties, 40 plus. And if that's the case, then it is basically these parties that will hold the levers to power. The VBA, the AIMM, they do better than people would have expected. In this scenario, you've got the 2019 style government formation where you potentially, I think Rajdeep alluded to it, the question of whether Ajit Pawar's MLAs or Ajit Pawar himself would want to switch back to the other side because suddenly he becomes key kingmaker. Or could some people from Sharad Pawar's party come across, and could one of these parties just collapse? It could happen on the other side with the Shinde Sena or with the UBT. In a Maha-mesh scenario, then it is a free-for-all. You can potentially have the Shinde Sena try to poach whatever happens on the other side with the UBT, or you could have Ajit Pawar trying to poach whatever they can from the Sharad Pawar faction. So this is scenario number 4. In such a scenario, the prospect of the imposition of president's rule also then comes into play. This is actually, no matter how much journalists may relish this possibility, it's actually a nightmare scenario and you don't want it for the people of Maharashtra. But we'll run 2 simulations here to try and convert this scenario, the Maha-mesh. Rajdeep's loving it. I see the smile on your face. Isme maza aayega, huh? You like this scenario, Rajdeep?
No, this election is so messy that Pradeep Gupta has hold on his, he says he's not going to release today exit poll of Maharashtra.
Yeah, because you see, I think, let me be honest,
So
let me get Preeti in because she travelled as much as I did, probably more into interior, Vidarbha and Marathwada. Did you get that sense of seat-by-seat contest? It wasn't as if there was one party that people were with or one individual. I think Eknath Shinde had a lot of popularity. That's true. One thing that stood out for me. No one had a bad word to say, which is why I think the Mahayuti may well have a bit of an edge in some parts. But did you get a sense that each constituency had some individual leader? It's an Amit Deshmukh or the Deshmukh family somewhere else. In another place, it could be the Mohite Patil family, Vikhe Patil. It's all these families running the show.
Well, Rajdeep, I primarily went to 2 regions, Vidarbha, Marathwada and a bit of western Maharashtra. But with what I saw, hyper-localized seat-by-seat election in each, what I thought were the biggest factors. Number 1, we speak so much of the Larki Bahin Yojana. I do feel in Maharashtra, we cannot say that, women will vote as a monolith. That all women are going to go and vote for the Mahayuti just because the money is coming in. I do see a lot of women, especially in Vidarbha, identifying as farmers. The same women, when you cross over to Marathwada, identify with their caste identity, caste assertion. And you can see that. And, so in that sense, yes. Number 2, you're bang on when you say Eknath Shinde is popular. He seems to be at least gaining ground. When you ask people, they recognize him, Rajdeep, very quickly. He's registered in the minds of the people, and it's very strange because it's not just with the schemes that he's put forth, it's his body language, the way he carries himself, the way he communicates with his people. A lot of people even connect with that where Eknath Shinde is concerned. But number 3, Rajdeep, what I'd like to see is also how much is the agrarian distress. The agrarian distress, as you cross over to Marathwada, turns into caste assertion. As you cross over into western Maharashtra, it turns into Pawar versus Pawar, a different kind of election. Okay. But yes, hyper-local, seat-by-seat, catchphrases which we heard, apaksh. Apaksh would mean independent. Bhav is something you hear everywhere you go. Bhav would be what we spoke of soya bean, in terms of the price of that. So, a lot of that going in, but yes, more or less a hyper-local election, seat by seat.
Okay, let's look at what might happen in the Maha-mesh scenario. I'm looking at 2 scenarios. Remember, the independents and others had just about 12% of the vote in the Lok Sabha election. So if the vote of the others goes up by 15% from that base of 12% to 27%, and half of this comes from the Vikas Aghadi, half comes from the Mahayuti, which is the NDA. In that scenario, you've got the MVA at 106, the Mahayuti at 142. So this is advantageous to the Mahayuti. Even if the others do well, you've got the Mahayuti at 142 and MVA at 106. If, however, we look at the second scenario, which is that others go up by 18%, and this vote comes 9% from the Vikas Aghadi and 9% from the Mahayuti. In this case, it's 136 and 103. So the net of all of this is that the chances of the Mahayuti being slightly ahead, now they're substantially ahead or slightly ahead, in most of these scenarios seems to be higher and brighter than the chances of the MVA being ahead.
Because conceptually, the opposition vote is getting split between MVA and so many independents and rebels. However, when we did the analysis, on 139 seats there are rebels of whatever significance, small or big. So they could play a role of the spoiler, and that's what would be the key.
Anish joins us from the Sharad Pawar faction of the NCP. We've done all these simulations. Do you want to tell us what your internal numbers are looking like? You work very closely with Supriya Sule and the party. So give us a sense of what your internal discussions at this moment are revealing to you.
You know, we've just reached the end of what seems like the longest election that Maharashtra has ever seen. I think we've ended what I like to call an 11-month-long election that started in January with no symbol and no future in terms of the predictions that we could make for the Lok Sabha. And we've done a fairly good job in May with these elections, winning 8 out of 10 seats. Let me tell you a couple of things that we're seeing, at least amongst our voters and what I'm hearing from the ground, right? One, this is a turnout election. Any party that is going to be able to get its most committed voters to the polling booths is the party that is going to be able to reap the biggest electoral rewards. And at least in Western Maharashtra and Marathwada, we're seeing a fairly significant advantage because we've managed to get our voters to the polling booths. Pawar Sahib has managed to hold a record number of 200 sabhas across the state. And because this is a local seat-by-seat election, these are going to make a significant impact. I think the most interesting thing I've seen in all of these
disappeared in that critical period between July and October, and especially after Haryana's defeat, you all seem to suddenly get demoralized, and there was the fight over seats. Many believe you've given the Shiv Sena UBT 15 more seats than they should have got, and that could cost you if this is a close election.
No, Rajdeep, I think this has been an incredibly contentious seat-sharing agreement that has been reached, right, across both alliances. I don't think seat-sharing has been easy on either side. I think what has been working in our favor, unlike the Mahayuti, however, is that regardless of whether or not this was the right party or the right candidate to have been fielded in that seat, the vote transfer in the Mahavikas Aghadi, both the Lok Sabha elections and now, will be far better than the Mahayuti. So you're going to see that consolidation happen regardless of whether or not the candidate selection was perfect, as you pointed out. Okay. So I don't think that's a fairly big concern. As for whether we took a break, I don't think so. I think Pawar Sahib started 2 days after the Lok Sabha elections and continued onward and upward throughout till the last day of campaigning. So I don't see that there's been a lull in that momentum. Again, it's been a seat-by-seat election. Each one of our candidates, I think, have done a fairly good job of consolidating their original voter bases and working with alliance partners.
Okay.